The emergency beacon screamed across the void, its desperate signal cutting through the darkness of space like a knife through silk. On the bridge of the medical frigate Gentle Dawn, Captain Zara pressed her delicate silver hands against the translation matrix, her gossamer wings trembling with fear. "Captain," whispered her communications officer Pip, his butterfly-like antennae drooping with exhaustion. "The signal, it's getting weaker." Zara's species, the Lyrani, were known throughout the galaxy as the greatest healers. Their ships carried medicine to the furthest reaches of space. Their touch could mend bones that others thought beyond repair. But now, drifting helplessly in the Keth Nebula with their engines dead, they were the ones who needed saving. "Send the distress call again," Zara ordered, though her voice carried little hope. "All frequencies. Someone must hear us." The Gentle Dawn had been carrying critical medical supplies to the refugee camps on Proxima 7 when the engine core suffered a cascade failure. 17 crew members now faced a slow death in the cold void, their life support systems failing one by one. "Captain," Pip's voice cracked with desperation, "I'm detecting response signals." Zara's luminescent eyes brightened. "Put them through." The first response came from the hegemony of Krell. The reptilian face that appeared on screen was cold and calculating. "Medical frigate, this is War Master Seth. Your cargo manifest shows pharmaceutical supplies worth 50,000 credits. We will rescue your crew in exchange for your entire shipment." "But those medicines are for the refugee camps," Zara protested. "Thousands will die without them." The Krell's forked tongue flicked out in amusement. "Then you choose your crew or the refugees. You have 1 hour to decide." The transmission cut. More responses came in, each one worse than the last. The Moore Syndicate wanted to sell the Lyrani crew into slavery. The Iron Consortium offered to rescue them only if they signed 20-year labor contracts. The Void Runners simply laughed and closed the channel. "Captain," Pip said quietly, "we're receiving a signal from an unknown system." Grid reference. "That's strange. That system isn't on any of our charts." "What do they want?" Zara asked, not daring to hope. "They're asking about our crew complement and medical condition. No mention of payment or cargo." Zara frowned. In her 40 years of space travel, she had never encountered a species that offered help without demanding something in return. "What do they call themselves?" "Humans, from something called Earth." The name meant nothing to Zara or anyone else on her crew. Their databases contained information on over 3,000 species, but these humans were completely unknown. "Send them our full status report," she decided. "What do we have to lose?" The response came back within minutes. The face that appeared on screen made Zara gasp. The creature was unlike anything she had ever seen. No scales, no fur, no chitin. Its skin was smooth and pale, its eyes a startling blue color. But when it spoke, its voice was warm and reassuring. "This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We've received your distress call and we're already en route to your position. Hold tight, help is coming." "Wait," Zara called out, but the transmission had already ended. Out top, on Earth, Admiral James Harrison stood in the command center of Terra Defense Command, watching the holographic display of the galaxy. The distress signal from the Lyrani ship had been picked up by their deep space monitoring stations just hours ago. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Chen, "the Prometheus and her escort fleet are 12 hours out from the distress beacon. Captain Martinez confirms they can handle the rescue operation." Admiral Harrison nodded, but his expression was troubled. "What about the other responses to their distress call?" "Intelligence reports that 6 different factions made contact with the Lyrani vessel. All of them demanded payment or services in exchange for rescue. They're going to let 17 beings die unless they get something in return? That appears to be standard practice in this region of space, sir." Admiral Harrison's jaw tightened. Humanity had been monitoring galactic communications for 5 years now, ever since they developed faster-than-light travel. What they discovered had horrified them. The galaxy was ruled by predators who saw compassion as weakness and cruelty as strength. "Admiral," came another voice. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, Earth's leading xenobiologist, approached with a datapad. "I've completed my analysis of the Lyrani physiology. They're extremely fragile, hollow bones like birds, thin skin, low muscle density. Their homeworld must have very low gravity and minimal environmental hazards. And the others who responded to their distress call? All apex predator species. The Krell evolved from pack hunters, the Moor from ambush predators. They see the Lyrani as prey. Admiral Harrison looked out at the stars through the command center's windows. Earth was still a secret to most of the galaxy, hidden in a region of space that others avoided. They called it the Death Zone. Too many radiation storms, too many asteroid fields, too dangerous for civilized species. If only they knew the truth. Earth wasn't in the Death Zone. Earth was the Death Zone, and it had produced the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Chen reported, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Prometheus." Captain Martinez's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, the bridge of the human vessel buzzed with activity. "Admiral, we've reached the Lyrani ship. Beginning rescue operations now." "Any complications, Captain?" "Nothing we can't handle, sir. Though I should mention we've got company. 3 Krell warships are holding position about 50,000 kilometers away. They're not interfering, but they're watching." On the bridge of the Gentle Dawn, Captain Zara watched in amazement as the human rescue ship maneuvered alongside her vessel. The Prometheus was smaller than the Krell warships, but there was something about its design that made her nervous. It looked predatory. "Captain," Pip reported, "they're requesting permission to dock." Granted. The airlock cycled open, and the humans came aboard. Zara's first thought was how heavy they looked. Where her people were delicate and graceful, these beings were solid and powerful. They moved with controlled strength, like barely contained explosions. The human leading the rescue team was a woman with short dark hair and kind eyes. "I'm Dr. Sarah Kim," she said through a translator device. "We're here to help." What followed was the most efficient rescue operation Zara had ever witnessed. The humans worked with incredible precision, bringing medical equipment and life support systems. They checked each crew member carefully, their touch gentle, despite their obvious strength. "Your people are in good condition," Dr. Kim reported. "Dehydrated and exhausted. But nothing we can't fix. We'll have you transferred to our ship within the hour." "Thank you," Zara whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But I must ask, what do you want in return?" Dr. Kim looked genuinely confused. "Want in return? We don't want anything. You needed help. We provided it. That's what decent beings do." As the last Lyrani crew member was transferred to the Prometheus, Captain Martinez received an incoming transmission. The reptilian face of War Master Seth filled the screen. "Human vessel," the Krell snarled. "You are interfering with our salvage rights. Withdraw immediately." Captain Martinez's expression didn't change. "There's nothing to salvage here. We're conducting a humanitarian rescue. The Lyrani refused our generous offer. Their ship and cargo are now forfeit under Galactic salvage law. I don't recognize any law that lets you profit from suffering." Seth's eyes narrowed. "You are new to this galaxy, human. You do not understand how things work here. The strong take what they want. The weak serve or die. Maybe it's time that changed." The Krell War Master laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "One small ship against 3 Krell dreadnoughts? You are either very brave or very stupid. Let's find out which." What happened next would be talked about in spacer bars across the galaxy for decades to come. The 3 Krell warships, each one twice the size of the human vessel, moved to attack formation. Their weapons powered up, energy shields activated. The Prometheus didn't run. It didn't try to negotiate. Instead, it did something that no one expected it charged. The human ship accelerated directly toward the lead Krell dreadnought, its engines burning at maximum power. Energy beams lanced out from the Krell ships, striking the Prometheus again and again. But the human vessel's armor was unlike anything in the Krell database. It absorbed the punishment and kept coming. "Impossible," Seth whispered as he watched the human ship close the distance. "No one flies directly into weapons fire like that." The Prometheus fired its weapons at point-blank range, but instead of energy beams, it launched solid projectiles. Metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds punched through the Krell shields like they didn't exist. The lead dreadnought shuddered as the metal slugs tore through its hull. Explosions rippled along its length as critical systems failed. Within minutes, the mighty warship was dead in space. The second Krell ship tried to retreat, but the Prometheus was already moving to intercept. The human vessel rammed the dreadnought's engine section, the collision sending both ships spinning. But where the Krell ship crumpled like paper, the human vessel pulled away with only surface damage. The third Krell captain had seen enough. His ship turned and fled into hyperspace, leaving his comrades behind. Captain Martinez's voice came over the communications channel, calm and steady. "War Master Seth, your ship is disabled, but your crew is alive. I suggest you think carefully about whether conquest is really worth the cost." In the weeks that followed, the story of the human rescue spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Lyreni were natural storytellers, and they shared their tale with every species they encountered. The mysterious humans who had saved them without asking for payment. The Deathworlders who had defeated 3 Krell dreadnoughts with a single ship. On the Moore homeworld, Syndicate leader Vex studied the battle recordings with growing unease. How is this possible? The Krell are among the strongest military forces in the galaxy. His tactical advisor, a scarred veteran named Tor, shook his head. The humans don't fight like anyone else. They absorb damage that should destroy them. They use primitive kinetic weapons against our modern energy shields. And they ram enemy ships with their own vessels. Suicide tactics. No, sir, their ships are built like weapons themselves. Heavy armor, reinforced hulls, designed for close combat. They're not trying to avoid battle. They're trying to get as close as possible to their enemies. Across the galaxy, other powers were having similar conversations. The Shadow Collective called emergency meetings. The Crimson Empire mobilized additional fleets. Everyone wanted to know more about these humans and their dangerous homeworld. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kett, a xenobiologist working for the Galactic Research Institute, had managed to analyze the data from the human rescue ship. What she found terrified her. According to the atmospheric readings, she reported to the Institute's governing council, these humans come from what we would classify as a Class 15 death world. The council members looked at each other in shock. Class 15 was beyond their rating system. Nothing that hostile should be able to support intelligent life. The gravity is nearly twice galactic standard, Dr. Kett continued. The atmosphere is corrosive to most species. The weather patterns are extremely violent. And the ecosystem, she paused, her voice trembling. The ecosystem is designed around predation. Everything hunts everything else. How did they achieve civilization? Asked Council Leader Tem. By becoming the apex predator of their world. They hunted everything else to near extinction, then turned their aggression on each other. They fought global wars for thousands of years. Then how are they spacefaring? Violent species usually destroy themselves. That's what makes them so dangerous. They learn to control their violence without losing it. They can be peaceful when they choose to be, but they can also be more destructive than anything we've ever encountered. The reports spread through galactic communication networks within days. Panic swept through the established powers. The humans weren't just another species, they were something entirely new. Deathworlders with advanced technology and an apparent commitment to protecting the weak. On Earth, Admiral Harrison was dealing with his own crisis. The rescue of the Lyreni had revealed the true nature of galactic civilization, and humanity was horrified by what they'd learned. "Sir," reported Intelligence Chief Roberts, "we've intercepted communications from across the galaxy. At least 47 species are currently enslaved by various empires. Billions of beings are living under oppression. And the so-called Galactic Council? Powerless. They issue statements and pass resolutions, but they have no enforcement mechanism. The strong do whatever they want." Admiral Harrison looked at the holographic display showing the galaxy's political structure. Red zones marked the territory of aggressive empires. Yellow zones showed contested space. Green zones, representing free and peaceful civilizations, were disturbingly rare. "Admiral," came another voice, President Maria Santos had entered the command center, her face grave. The World Assembly has reached a decision. We're going to do something about this. Ma'am, we're not going to hide anymore. If the galaxy is ruled by bullies, then it's time someone stood up to them. Within months, Earth's industrial capacity was focused on a single goal: building a fleet capable of challenging the galaxy's major powers. The shipyards of Luna and Mars worked around the clock. The asteroid belt mining stations sent streams of raw materials to feed the construction effort. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected alliance. Captain Zara, now serving as the Loreni Federation's ambassador to Earth, arrived with an offer that would change everything. "We want to help," she told President Santos during a private meeting. "The Loreni may be peaceful, but we're not helpless. We have medical technology, advanced shields, and faster-than-light communication systems." "Why?" President Santos asked. "Why risk yourselves for us?" "Because you saved us when no one else would. Because you're the first species we've met that protects others without asking for payment. Because maybe, just maybe, you can give the galaxy something it's never had before: hope." The first joint human-Loreni warship was a marvel of engineering. It combined human durability with Loreni technology, creating vessels that were both nearly indestructible and incredibly fast. More importantly, it proved that humans could work with others, that they weren't just another conquest-hungry empire. Word of the alliance spread quickly. Other oppressed species began reaching out to Earth, offering their own technologies and expertise. The Aquarii shared their knowledge of underwater warfare. The Zenith provided advanced sensor technology. The Kepler contributed their expertise in artificial intelligence. For the first time in galactic history, the weak were uniting against the strong. The established powers didn't take this development well. The Moore Syndicate sent assassins to Earth they never returned. The Iron Consortium tried to blockade human trade routes. Their ships were captured or destroyed. The Krell attempted a preemptive strike on Luna Base. The attacking fleet was annihilated by orbital defense platforms. But it was the hegemony of Zar that made the first serious mistake. They attacked a human medical convoy that was delivering supplies to refugee camps in the Outer Rim. 17 ships full of doctors and medical supplies were destroyed. 300 human civilians died. The response was swift and terrible. Admiral Harrison himself led the retaliatory fleet. 50 ships, including the new dreadnought Retribution, jumped into the Zar home system without warning. The hegemony fleet, over 200 vessels strong, moved to intercept them. The battle that followed would become known as the Zar Reckoning. The human fleet didn't try to outmaneuver their enemies or fight from long range. Instead, they did what humans always did: they charged straight into the heart of the enemy formation. The Zar had superior numbers. They had more advanced energy weapons. They had the advantage of fighting in their own territory. None of it mattered. The human ships were built for war in a way that the galaxy had never seen. Their hulls were designed to ram enemy vessels. Their weapons were meant to destroy, not just disable. Their crews fought with a ferocity that terrified their opponents. When the Retribution rammed the Zar flagship, the collision should have destroyed both ships. Instead, the human dreadnought emerged from the wreckage and continued fighting. The Zar flagship was nothing but debris. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Zar fleet was destroyed. The hegemony surrendered unconditionally. Their leaders were placed under arrest for crimes against sentient life. Admiral Harrison's broadcast to the galaxy was simple and direct. "This is Admiral Harrison of the Terran Defense Fleet. The attack on our medical convoy was an act of war against innocent civilians. The hegemony of Zar has been dissolved. Any other faction that targets human relief efforts will face the same fate." The message was clear. The humans weren't just protecting themselves. They were protecting anyone who couldn't protect themselves. The galaxy's power structure began to crumble. Species that had been enslaved for centuries rose up against their oppressors, knowing that Earth would support them. Pirates and raiders found their bases under attack by human fleets. Corrupt governments faced revolution from their own people. But the real change came from something unexpected. The humans didn't just fight, they built. They established medical stations in former war zones. They created trade routes that allowed smaller species to prosper. They set up schools and hospitals and research facilities. For the first time in galactic history, a major power was using its strength to help others rather than exploit them. Captain Zara stood on the observation deck of the New Dawn, watching as human and Lyrani engineers worked together to construct a massive space station. The facility would serve as a medical center for the entire sector, providing free healthcare to any species that needed it. "It's beautiful," she said to Admiral Harrison, who had come to inspect the construction. "It's a start," he replied. "There's still so much work to do. So many systems still under the control of tyrants. So many people still suffering. But for the first time in my lifetime, I have hope," Zara said. "My people have traveled the galaxy for centuries, and we've never seen anything like this. A species that fights not for conquest, but for justice." Admiral Harrison smiled. "We learned long ago that the strongest civilizations are built on cooperation, not domination. It took us a while to figure that out, but we got there eventually. And now you're teaching the rest of the galaxy, one system at a time." As they watched, another ship arrived at the construction site. This one carried refugees from the former Moor territories, beings who had been slaves just months ago and were now free. They would receive medical care, education, and the chance to rebuild their lives. The human experiment was working. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in millennia, the strong were using their power to protect the weak instead of exploit them. The age of galactic tyranny was ending. The age of human compassion had begun. But Admiral Harrison knew this was just beginning. Somewhere out there, in the dark spaces between the stars, other empires were watching and planning. The Void Lords, the Crimson Horde, the machine intelligences of the core worlds, they would not give up their power without a fight. "Sir," came a voice from behind him. Lieutenant Commander Chen approached with a data pad. "We're receiving distress signals from the Kepler sector. A species called the Mirani are under attack by something called the Devourer fleet." Admiral Harrison took the pad and read the report. An entire star system was under siege by ships that consumed everything in their path: planets, asteroids, even stars themselves. "Prep the fleet," he ordered. "All available ships, maximum speed." "Sir, intelligence suggests the Devourer fleet has over 1,000 vessels. We can maybe field 200. Admiral Harrison looked out at the stars, where somewhere an innocent species was fighting for survival against impossible odds. "Then we'll make those 200 count. Signal all Allied forces it's time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten innocent life." As the human fleet prepared to launch, messages went out across the galaxy. The Lyrani Medical Corps volunteered to join the mission. The Aquari contributed their fastest ships. The Zenith provided their most advanced weapons. Dozens of species that had been saved by human intervention now stood ready to help save others. The SOS that had first brought humanity into galactic affairs had started something that no one could have predicted. The Deathworlders of Earth had become the galaxy's protectors, and they were gathering an alliance of the willing to stand against the darkness. The Devourer fleet was about to learn what every galactic bully eventually learned. When you threaten the innocent, you face the wrath of Earth. And Earth's wrath was something that no force in the galaxy could withstand. The human fleet launched into the void, carrying with them the hopes of billions. Behind them, the construction of the medical station continued. Ahead of them, another desperate species waited for salvation. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and wonders beyond imagination. But for the first time in its history, it had guardians who would fight for justice rather than conquest. The Deathworlders of Earth had heard the call for help, and as always they answered, "To be continued."